How do you describe the feeling when fear takes over? Have you ever felt the darkness creep into your life and know you were powerless to stop it? I remember the night the fear and darkness stole my life. The date was burned into my memory. As I've gotten older, I've tried to ignore it, to pretend I don't remember. After all, I am supposed to be less susceptible to believing in things that can't be explained, right? It was time. The feeling that something was wrong in the universe. Something was coming. Something that had been watching me for years, waiting on me to remember the first night it came for me. It unnerved me, and I was unsure how I was supposed to cope with my instinct and intuition and the ominous foreboding I felt in the depths of my soul. Things at home had been less and less comfortable for months, and thus I grew to distrust others in my life. I should have known then that was what it wanted. It wanted to isolate me because it feeds on fear and paranoia. What it didn't count on was me. I had always been different from others. However, I hid those differences well. I knew things, I felt things, I heard and saw things that no one else did. The depth of knowledge I had at such a young age overwhelmed me. Yet, even with all that knowledge, I don't know that anything could have prepared me for what was about to happen. I sensed it. That day, I couldn't shake the sense of something being terribly wrong. There was an unknown threat, an enemy I could not identify or even imagine, and I knew before the end I would be forced to draw on every ounce of strength and courage I could summon. Although I was acutely aware of my surroundings, I felt trapped. I bolted upright from the bed, once again gasping for breath, my long strawberry blonde curls plastered to my head with a cold, sticky sweat. Another night terror. This time was worse than the last one. Each time they seemed to escalate. I could still feel the hands that had been wrapped around my throat as my body trembled. I tried to push down the fear and breathe through it, as I have always done, but this time it was hard. I'd come too close. It had come too close. My life has always been this way for as long as I can remember, but lately things have gotten worse. Many people faced with what I've been going through are able to pass it off as simple nightmares and move on. What I have been experiencing for the last 2 years of my life are night terrors. What's the difference, you may ask? Some would have you believe there isn't really much of a difference. I, however, know better. I know the truth. The difference is vast. Nightmares are dreams that your subconscious creates according to what you have exposed your mind to throughout your waking hours. While night terrors, those are the things that expose themselves to you before your mind has had a chance to reach the dream state. They expose themselves to you because by all rights, you actually appear to be asleep. Though your body may be exhausted and paralyzed, your mind is fully awake and aware of what is going on around you, and will actually try to force your body to wake up when it feels a threat. That is what happens on those rare occasions when you are thinking to yourself, "This is a dream," or "I need to wake up." But the actual process of waking up is nearly impossible. It is something that evokes a fear in you far beyond what nightmares do. Some experts call it sleep paralysis. The hallucinatory element to sleep paralysis makes it even more likely that someone will interpret the experience as a dream. since completely dreamlike objects, people, and other things they deem impossible may appear in the room alongside one's normal vision. However, these are not dreams, and if you are unable to wake yourself from them, you could be in grave danger. You have opened your mind far enough that you are able to peer into the realm of something more than your own reality, the realm of shadows. What you are seeing at those times are the things that are actually after your soul, things you must learn to fight against with every part of your being. Make no mistake, if they reach you before you wake, the evidence of that encounter will be left on your body. The evidence of that encounter will be left on your body. Trust me, I know. It happens to me frequently. Have you ever felt like you were being watched? An uncanny feeling that sends chills up your spine. A noise that makes you second guess every noise you hear thereafter. A shadow that you see out of the corner of your eye. But when you look straight at that area, it's just not there. If so, your first reaction is probably a lot like mine was. I was just imagining seeing something. There's nothing really there. I was wrong. My gut knew it. My brain knew it. My soul felt it. The fear that overtook me that first night left me paralyzed. It was a fear that was so consuming, so all-encompassing, I was left without the ability to move, speak, or feel anything other than the fear itself. I had just finished hanging up my clean clothes after doing laundry all night and finally collapsed backward onto my pillow. I laid there staring out the window at the numberless stars against the purple tapestry of the night sky when the storm rolled in. Black clouds began boiling and lightning illuminated my room. The roar of thunder seemed to shake the foundation of the entire house and startled me. That is when I noticed something happening. Although I could still see the streetlight outside near my driveway, there was no more illumination in my room, which made absolutely no sense to me. The darkness consumed every nook and cranny and made me want to pull the covers over my head. I should have known then there was something wrong. I had never been scared of anything. I wasn't one that was easily influenced by outside forces. My mind was completely mine, and I had developed it in ways that few others my age were able to. You see, most people have a coping mechanism that allows them to go through their waking hours, taking little notice of their thought processes, how the mind moves, what it fears, what it pays attention to, what it says to itself, and what it brushes aside. For the most part, they eat, work, converse, worry, hope, plan, make love, shop, play, all with minimal attention paid to how they think. I was different. I had harnessed the power of my mind at a very young age, and in doing so, I was able to unleash a power inside myself that made me resilient against things that controlled others, like fear. Nevertheless, this darkness was different. It made me feel true fear for the first time in my life. I tried to breathe through it knowing it was irrational to fear the dark, especially as a teenager. But this darkness was an absolutely impenetrable blackness of darkness that would cause anyone a feeling of intense alarm and horror. What terrified me even more was knowing that it was unexpectedly familiar to me. When I strained my eyes, trying to see something in the room, there was nothing but blackness. I was prepared to reach and turn my bedside lamp on when I heard a low growl emitting from the darkness to my left. I froze when I felt the hot breath brush against my skin. I knew my father was in the next room and that the walls in the old house where I lived were paper thin, so I attempted to scream. However, my voice was stolen, and my entire body became paralyzed when I realized it was starting to surround me and imprisoning me to my bed, while it threatened to overtake me. As I laid there in horror, being terrorized by an unseen enemy, I realized that I was left grossly unprepared for what I was about to endure. That is how it overcomes you. It creeps in and makes a home, speaking its fear and lies and evil until it takes over. Blackness worming its way even into the things we once loved and held so dear. It was as if the very atmosphere around me was trying to draw me into the darkness. That's when I felt a hand grab my ankle, slowly tightening its grip, and then another hand on the opposite ankle. The same darkness that was growling and choking the very air from my lungs was trying to overtake my body. I felt a tear slip down my cheek as I closed my eyes and uttered a silent prayer to die before this darkness took hold of my soul. The darkness was getting thicker by the second, and I tried to concentrate, tried to remember what to do. Then I heard evil laughter. The air smelled of smoke and must. I knew it was going to smother me. I was choking, trying to find fresh air. I tried to jerk away, but the smoke was burning my lungs. I couldn't breathe, and my mind began to feel fuzzy. I could feel myself fading. My heartbeat was thundering in my ears as it started to slow with my breathing. Each breath I tried to suck in burned and scorched its way down my throat. I wanted to give up, and I was so tired. I could feel the presence of the darkness. I could hear the dark whispers urging me to give up. I felt the full onslaught of fury coming at me from all sides now. I knew that once I let 1 ounce of doubt enter my mind, that would be its way in. From there, it would invade my mind slowly, like a cancer, spreading and metastasizing until it consumed my soul through fear. I felt the chill in the air as the temperature began to plummet around me, but I didn't let it deter my concentration. I wanted to open my eyes, but I knew if I did, my mind would lose its control over the absolute terror that was threatening to destroy me. I wanted to scream until my throat was numb. I wanted to break away from it all and not believe this was the only way, but I couldn't. I didn't want any part of this life of fear, darkness, and danger. But I knew if I gave up, it would be over. I needed to finish this, no matter how long it took. I felt the piercing at all points around me now, and I could feel the darkness and its fury wrapping around me. I was struggling against the pain, trying to force my mind to block out the fear and breathe. I didn't want to believe this was real. It couldn't be real, could it? I tried to tell myself not to panic. It wasn't real. It couldn't be real. We're vulnerable at night because we're not in control. Sleep is an in-between state. That is what I kept telling myself anyway. I was asleep. That had to be it. I tried to pinch myself, but still couldn't move. I found out that night how thin the veil is between our world and theirs. I knew at that moment I had absolutely no doubts that the devil exists, and this being that was in the room with me was unquestionably real. At the same time the thoughts were formed in my head, I heard laughter again. Evil, sadistic laughter, followed by 5 words. You are going to die. My body began rebelling against me, trying to shut down completely. My breathing was becoming more and more labored. My senses took over, and all I could smell now was what I could only describe as rotting flesh, sulfur, must, and smoke. Shrill screams were echoing in my ears along with my heartbeat, and the fingers I could feel wrapped around my throat began squeezing tighter. I knew this was my last chance. With everything I had in me, I had to move or scream, something. I was not ready to die. I was barely able to get out a choked whisper. Help me. The attack momentarily ceased but resumed with worse force just moments later. Suddenly, I felt a pushing sensation, as if something was trying to push me off my bed. That was followed by the sensation of being punched and scratched. I started to pray silently. Slowly, a sliver of light pierced the darkness, just enough to allow me to see the dark figures around my bed, slowly tilting their heads like they were studying me. The glow of the red eyes that were piercing my soul. I did the only thing I could think of. I began trying to rationalize my fear. I'm dreaming. That's it. I need to wake myself up. But what could I do while I was paralyzed? I felt myself fading. They were winning. I was going to die. Then, as suddenly as it began, it left. Temporarily. I was released. I was finally able to draw in a full breath. That is when my mother opened my bedroom door, and immediately my body was released and I could move. I was trembling, but too overwhelmed to speak. "Are you okay?" my mother asked. All I could do was shake my head. She could tell I was not all right, and she knew better than anyone that I was not susceptible to outside influences. However, she was convinced I was dreaming. I knew that was not the case. I knew I had just endured one of many terrifying battles for my life and my soul. It wasn't done with me. It would be back. My mother never saw the scratches, the bruises, or the handprints that were left on my body after that first night. And part of me knew she never could. I didn't want to expose her to the hell I had suffered, because I knew if I did, they would come after her too. I knew they were real, and my horror was just beginning. Hello friends, Mr. Paleface here. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have you had a really creepy experience lately? Have you had a nightmare recently you'd like to share? Send in your scary stories to contactmrpaleface@gmail.com for a chance to be featured in one of my videos.